You know, we all try to be smart about our money and our time, don't we? And that often means cooking a big meal and then enjoying the leftovers for a day or two. It makes perfect sense. It saves effort, saves money, and reduces waste. It's just part of everyday life for so many of us. You finish dinner. Pack up the rest into containers. Pop them in the fridge, and you've got lunch or dinner sorted for the next day. Simple, convenient. Feels like being responsible. But what if something we do automatically, something that seems so harmless and practical, could actually be creating potential risks for our long-term health? What if reheating some of those perfectly good leftovers isn't as straightforward as we think, and might even contribute to problems down the road, like affecting our memory or increasing our risk of certain serious health issues? It sounds a bit alarming, doesn't it? Like a hidden worry in our own kitchens? This isn't about scaring anyone, but about uncovering a simple truth that isn't widely talked about, that the way we handle and reheat certain foods can sometimes create unwelcome changes in them. It's a secret tucked away in our daily routine. In this video, we're going to look at 5 common foods that many of us reheat regularly, and why doing so, especially if not done carefully, might be something we need to be a little more mindful of as we get older. We'll explore why there's caution around them, and simple, practical steps you can take instead. These aren't huge changes, just little shifts in how we think about our food that could make a real difference to our health and well-being. Stick with me, because we're going to uncover which foods these are, why they need a bit of extra thought, and what you can do differently. And watch to the end for something that will surprise you. Let's start with the first food that often finds its way into our leftover containers and then into the microwave or oven: rice. Now, who doesn't love a good rice dish? Fried rice, curries with rice, simple boiled rice as a side. It's a staple around the world. And because we often cook large batches, reheating rice is incredibly common. But here's where we need to pay attention. It's not the reheating itself that's the main villain with rice. It's what can happen between the time it's cooked and when you reheat it. Uncooked rice can contain spores of a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. These spores can survive even when the rice is cooked. If cooked rice is left standing at room temperature for too long, these spores can multiply and produce toxins. It's these toxins, not the bacteria itself, that can make you very sick, causing vomiting and diarrhea. Now, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with cancer or dementia risk? While the immediate concern with poorly handled rice is food poisoning, the broader principle is about minimizing exposure to potential toxins and harmful substances in our diet over many years. Regular consumption of food containing toxins, or those that can generate harmful compounds when improperly stored or prepared, adds a burden to our bodies, contributing to inflammation and cellular damage over time. While Bacillus cereus toxins primarily cause acute illness, the general practice of mishandling food creates opportunities for various contaminants and undesirable chemical changes. For instance, improper storage and reheating can encourage the formation of compounds like advanced glycation end products, AGs, which are linked to oxidative stress and inflammation, processes implicated in aging, chronic diseases, and potentially neurodegenerative conditions like dementia. So, while rice itself doesn't magically become carcinogenic when reheated, the process of handling and reheating opens the door to potential issues that contribute to the cumulative load on our health. The key with rice is cooling it quickly and storing it properly. The sooner you cool cooked rice after serving, the better. Don't leave it sitting on the counter for hours. Aim to cool it within an hour. If possible, divide large portions into smaller containers so they cool faster. Then, get it into the fridge. It should be stored in the fridge for no more than 1 day before being reheated. And when you do reheat it, make sure it's piping hot all the way through. Don't just warm it up slightly. You need the heat to kill any active bacteria. And perhaps the most important tip: never reheat rice more than once. Cook what you think you'll eat. Cool and refrigerate leftovers quickly. Reheat thoroughly once. And discard anything left after that. It takes a little more planning than just sticking the whole pot on the counter, but it drastically reduces the risk of those toxins developing. Think of it as a little bit of care up front, saving you potential grief later. It's a small habit change, quick cooling and single reheating that minimizes a potential source of harmful exposure. Manix, dekoy na bisiyo ante. Moving on. Let's talk about another common leftover chicken. Roast chicken. Chicken stir-fry. Chicken curry. It's versatile and a family favorite. Reheating chicken seems perfectly normal, right? And it can be. But again, there are things to watch out for. The primary concern with reheating chicken, particularly if it wasn't stored correctly or isn't reheated thoroughly, is the risk of bacterial growth, particularly Salmonella and Campylobacter. These bacteria can cause nasty food poisoning. Now, connecting this back to the broader health picture, similar to rice, repeated exposure to toxins or the stress of fighting off frequent foodborne illnesses puts a strain on your body. Chronic low-level inflammation, often triggered by fighting off bacteria or processing harmful byproducts, is increasingly linked to a host of long-term health problems. Furthermore, proteins, like those in chicken, can change structure when cooked and then reheated, especially at high temperatures. While not directly linked to cancer or dementia in a simple cause and effect way that reheating chicken causes these diseases, the formation of certain compounds during repeated heating or overheating of proteins and fats can potentially contribute to the body's overall oxidative stress and inflammatory load over time. For instance, repeatedly heating oils used in cooking, especially to high temperatures, can create harmful free radicals and other undesirable chemicals. If your chicken dish involves sauces or fats that are reheated multiple times, you might be introducing more of these compounds into your diet. The principle here is reducing the cumulative burden on your system. So, how do you handle leftover chicken? Always refrigerate cooked chicken within 2 hours of cooking or 1 hour if it's a hot day. Make sure it's stored in airtight containers. When reheating, ensure it's steaming hot all the way through. The safest way to reheat chicken is often in the oven or on the stovetop with a little liquid like broth or water to prevent it from drying out and ensure even heating. Microwaving can sometimes heat unevenly, leaving cooler spots where bacteria can survive. If you do microwave, stir it halfway through and check the temperature in several places. And crucially, just like with rice, try to avoid reheating chicken more than once. Cooked chicken leftovers are best eaten cold in salads or sandwiches if you don't think you'll finish them in one reheating. If you do reheat, only reheat the portion you plan to eat right away. This reduces the chances of temperature fluctuations and bacterial growth. It's about being smart with how you store and reheat, minimizing the opportunities for bacteria and undesirable chemical changes. Taking these simple steps with chicken helps ensure you're getting the protein and nutrients without the potential hidden risks associated with improper handling. It's another layer of protection for your long-term health journey. Now that we've talked about managing leftover rice and chicken carefully, let's move on to some vegetables that require similar attention. First up, spinach and other leafy green vegetables like lettuce or col. These are packed with nutrients and are wonderful additions to our diet. We often cook larger portions to have with meals, and leftovers are common. However, reheating spinach is something many health sources advise against. And here's why. Leafy greens contain nitrates. Nitrates themselves are relatively harmless, but when they are cooked and then left to cool and are reheated, these nitrates can be converted into nitrites and then into nitrosamines. Some nitrosamines are known carcinogens, substances that can contribute to the development of cancer. Now, the link here is more direct than with the immediate food poisoning risk of bacteria. While the amount of nitrosamines formed from reheating a portion of spinach might seem small, the concern is about cumulative exposure over time. Our bodies have mechanisms to deal with small amounts of harmful substances, but chronic exposure adds up. As we age, our body's ability to detoxify and repair cellular damage can become less efficient. Therefore, reducing avoidable exposure to potential carcinogens becomes increasingly important for lowering long-term risk of chronic diseases, including certain cancers and potentially contributing to the kind of oxidative stress implicated in neurodegenerative conditions like dementia. It's about consistently making choices that reduce the load of harmful compounds our bodies have to process. So, what should you do with leftover cooked spinach? The safest approach is to eat it cold, perhaps in a salad or blended into a cold soup, assuming it was cooled and refrigerated quickly after the initial cooking. If you cooked it with other ingredients, separate the spinach portion if possible, or plan to eat the entire dish cold. If you absolutely must reheat a dish containing spinach, do so only once. Make sure it reaches a high temperature quickly and consume it immediately, but ideally, avoid reheating cooked spinach altogether. It's one of those instances where the convenience of reheating might outweigh the potential long-term risk, however small that risk might seem in a single serving. A practical tip is to only cook the amount of spinach or greens you know you'll eat in one sitting. If you have excess fresh spinach, blanch it quickly and freeze it for later use in cooked dishes where it won't be reheated. Or simply use it fresh in salads. It requires a little foresight when cooking, but it's a simple step to reduce your exposure to these potentially harmful compounds. Next on our list are potatoes. Mashed potatoes, roasted potatoes, jacket potatoes. They're comforting and filling. And yes, we often have leftovers. Similar to rice, the primary concern with reheating potatoes relates to bacterial growth, specifically Clostridium botulinum. These bacteria can produce toxins that cause botulism, a very serious form of food poisoning. While botulism is rare, potato dishes, especially those cooked in foil and left to cool slowly, can create an anaerobic environment perfect for these bacteria to thrive and produce toxins. Reheating may not destroy these toxins. Again, the connection to cancer or dementia risk isn't a direct one where reheating a potato causes the disease. It circles back to the principle of minimizing exposure to toxins and reducing systemic stress on the body. Frequent bouts of illness, even mild ones, contribute to inflammation. More importantly, the way potatoes are cooked and handled can influence the formation of other compounds. For instance, cooking potatoes at high temperatures, like roasting or frying, can produce acrylamide, a compound considered a probable human carcinogen, while reheating itself doesn't create acrylamide. Repeated heating at high temperatures, or reheating fried potato products, could potentially increase exposure to such compounds already present, combining potential toxin risks from improper storage with potential exposure to compounds like acrylamide from how they were initially prepared and then potentially further altered by reheating, adds to the cumulative dietary burden over time. It's about managing multiple potential risk factors in our food preparation. To handle leftover potatoes safely, cool them down as quickly as possible after cooking. If you cooked jacket potatoes wrapped in foil, remove them from the foil before they cool to allow heat to escape quickly. Store them in the fridge in a sealed container. When reheating, make sure they are piping hot throughout. Avoid leaving cooked potato dishes out at room temperature for extended periods. If you're reheating something like mashed potato, you might need to add a splash of milk or butter to help it reheat evenly without drying out. For roasted or fried potatoes, reheating can sometimes make them unappetizingly soggy anyway. Consider repurposing them cold in potato salads or adding them cold to other dishes if suitable. The key message with potatoes is swift cooling and proper refrigeration to prevent toxin formation, and mindful reheating or using cold to avoid potential issues. It's another simple habit that adds a layer of safety to your diet. Finally, let's consider mushrooms. Mushrooms are fantastic absorbers of nutrients and flavors, and they add a wonderful earthy depth to many dishes. They're also quite delicate. When cooked, their proteins can degrade relatively quickly. Reheating mushrooms can lead to digestive upset for some people, while not directly linked to cancer or dementia in the same way as some other foods. The caution with mushrooms ties into general digestive health and minimizing the consumption of foods that have undergone significant protein degradation, which can sometimes produce compounds that are harder for the body to process. The broader connection here lies in the body's overall state. A healthy gut and efficient digestion are increasingly recognized as crucial for overall health, including cognitive function and immune response. Consuming food that is difficult to digest or contains degraded components can potentially contribute to gut irritation or inflammation. indirectly affecting overall well-being. Furthermore, mushrooms, depending on the type, can be quite absorbent if cooked with fats or sauces. Reheating can involve repeatedly heating those other components, potentially generating unwanted compounds as discussed earlier with chicken. It's about maintaining the integrity of the food as much as possible and supporting healthy digestion, which in turn supports overall health. So, how should you handle cooked mushrooms? Ideally, cook only the amount of mushrooms you need for a single meal. If you do have leftovers, eat them cold the next day in a salad or sandwich, provided they were cooled quickly and stored properly in the fridge. If you must reheat a dish containing mushrooms, do so only once and make sure it's heated thoroughly. Pay attention to how your body reacts, as some people are more sensitive than others. Avoid reheating mushroom dishes multiple times. Perhaps the best strategy is to cook mushrooms fresh for each meal you want them in. They cook relatively quickly, so it's often not a huge time commitment compared to the potential issues from reheating. It's another small adjustment in planning that prioritizes the freshness and integrity of the food you're eating. We've talked through 5 common foods: rice, chicken, spinach and greens, potatoes, and mushrooms, and why being mindful of how we reheat them is important. It's not about throwing away all your leftovers or becoming fearful of your kitchen. Not at all. It's about understanding the potential vulnerabilities of certain foods and taking simple, practical steps to minimize risks. It's about smart handling, quick cooling, proper storage, and often avoiding multiple reheating cycles. Think about it. We spend so much effort trying to eat nutritious food, full of vitamins and goodness. It makes sense to also pay attention to how we handle that food after it's cooked to preserve its quality and avoid introducing unwelcome elements. These small adjustments, cooling rice faster, eating leftover chicken cold, avoiding reheating spinach, being careful with potato storage, or cooking mushrooms fresh, are not difficult habits to build. They are little acts of care for your future self, reducing the cumulative burden on your body over years and decades. This isn't just about avoiding an upset stomach next week. It's part of a larger picture of reducing long-term exposure to potential toxins or compounds that could contribute to inflammation and oxidative stress. And as we've touched on, chronic inflammation and oxidative stress are increasingly linked to many age-related health concerns, including cognitive decline and certain diseases. So, by being a little more mindful in the kitchen today, you're investing in your health tomorrow. It's empowering, isn't it? Knowing that simple everyday choices can make a tangible difference. Remember, these are general guidelines, not absolute rules to cause anxiety. Everyone's body is different, and the specific risks can vary. But adopting these safe food handling practices is just good common sense for anyone, especially as we get older and our bodies might be a little less resilient. It's another tool in your kit for living well and staying healthy. What do you think? Were you aware of these concerns? Do you have any other tips for handling leftovers safely? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Sharing what works for you can help others in our community too. If you found this information helpful, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps us know we're creating content you value and helps other people find these tips. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos packed with practical advice for living your best life at every age. Thank you so much for watching. Take these tips, put them into practice where you can, and feel confident that you're making smart choices for your health and well-being. Live your best life at every age.